have to. We are coming to you with another remote session, as we are currently down a bandit, gentlemen. Will, the Professor Giles, is out of commission for the next week or so. He's down in Puerto Rico, where he is a tile installer. He's installing tile. He said 10 hours a day of tile installation. But he sent me his plays. He's with us in spirit, so we're going to press on, all right? This past weekend gave us an instant classic. I've got to say one of the best football games objectively that I have seen in the last 10 years. Really good football. And I know you guys are really looking forward to getting into that one. So let's go ahead and get started with our recap of the games of the week. Kick it over to you, Brandon.
Games of the week. Last week we had Missouri at Texas A&M. Tight-fought SEC battle. Wait. That's this week's. Yeah, excuse me. Pardon me. We had Illinois versus Penn State.
Just giving away the preview.
Yeah, no, that's on me. That's a rookie mistake. I'd still consider us rookies.
We're like episode 9 right now. So yeah.
So what was that week? That was week 5.
Week 5.
Week 5 games of the
recap.
week was Illinois versus Penn State, which Penn State took a W 21-7. Then we go to Louisville, Notre Dame. Notre Dame took a close-fought ball game, 31-24. And then we had what everybody predicted to probably be the game of the year, Georgia versus Alabama. And I think it lived up to that standard as the game of the year, with Alabama taking what I thought was a heartbreaking win for them at 41-31. 34, excuse me.
That was an absolute classic. We'll start with Illinois and Penn State first. We're probably not going to spend as much time talking about these. I think we all really want to get into the Georgia-Bama game. Yeah. But a couple things I've got on Illinois and Penn State. There's a couple of ranked teams here, but Beaver Stadium is a tough place to play. I have fully decided that is just a tough venue to play at. Penn State defense in the crowd dominated this one. It was kind of a low-scoring affair. I looked, and Illinois had 1.1 yards on the ground versus Penn State. 1.1. So it was it was like 33 carries and 34 yards. So I think from the defensive standpoint, Penn State just kind of solidified themselves as one of those teams. I still have doubts about them just because of who the quarterback is. It's not like Allard does anything wrong. He's not asked to do anything, so he never wows me. He manages a game and he kind of just does his job for 4 quarters. But all four of us, sorry, Will. All 4 of us had plus 18 on this game. We all had Illinois to at least cover the spread. We thought that was pretty high. And the Penn State won by 14, so we all won that one. Do you guys have any thoughts on this one before we move on?
No, I agree with all your points. I think Illinois, even though they lost this game by 2 touchdowns, I think Penn State they got a big shot to win the Big Ten against Ohio State, which I'm projecting right now. But Illinois, solid showing. I think their quarterback had 185 yards, which is pretty low, but he also did go 16 for 25 with the touchdown. I mean, pretty efficient game from him, but I just think, like you were saying, the crowd, the stadium, the atmosphere, it's hard to win in that place.
Yeah,
Did you say Penn State's winning the Big Ten?
I think they got a shot.
They
have a shot.
There's a big team in the way, but that's a solid football team. So I don't think it's like a crazy take.
I think they're a good team. Like, even though if they don't win the Big Ten, they still have a solid shot of going to the playoff. I think they're a team that could make some crazy noise in a playoff.
I think they can do that.
Especially, I think in the playoff, the higher seed gets the home game. So, I would see them being a higher seed than probably anybody they're going to play in the first round. I would not want to go into a playoff environment in that stadium with that atmosphere.
No, it's a difference maker for sure. It's definitely an equalizer. My big thing is, you look at almost every team that ends up winning, the one thing they have in common is a great quarterback. I mean, that is almost always what you see. And it's not necessarily like a Heisman quarterback, but a guy that can win you a game. You know, like Stetson Bennett, for example, was not like a Heisman quarterback. He's a fourth round pick, but he was a guy that could take over and win you a football game. We watched him do that before, when throwing for 400 yards. The issue with Penn State is Aller's not that guy. I don't ever see Aller throwing for 400 yards and taking a game into his own hands to win.
Now, who was, I'm forgetting his name, who was Michigan's quarterback last year?
J.J. McCarthy.
Yeah, JJ. I see them as similar people to where he does enough to manage the game well and give you good drives and, give you a chance. He's not going to mess up the game for you. You know what I mean? So I think that's a good comparison, and he just gives Penn State's athletes a chance to do their thing without making mistakes.
You just have to have so many other things go right when you have an average or slightly above average quarterback. Like the rest of your team has to be that much more dominant than than the team that you're playing. Not that McCarthy was bad. I think McCarthy's better than Aller. Like I think he had that kind of potential to. He was a playmaker at times. I just don't think. Again, he wasn't asked to be. But I think when he was called on, I think he did it. Nate, you got anything on this one?
I'm all good. I kind of agree with everything you said.
Cool. We'll go over to Louisville at Notre Dame. I know for this one I had the under. It was like under 48. And it was kind of chalk from the beginning because neither team could take care of the ball. There was like 6 turnovers. I think 5 of them were in the first half. Louisville had 3 turnovers. 2 of the 3, one was in the end zone, so that was immediate points. And then the other one was the ball was down at like the 10 or something. So they just really allowed Notre Dame to score points without even trying. Like you looked at, I don't even think Notre Dame had 300 yards of total offense. They didn't have to because a lot of their drives started in plus territory. So when that happens, the under's not going to hit. So I did not end up hitting. I think it was 31-24. What did you guys have on that game?
I had Louisville taking a win. I mean, to your point, I think Louisville could have snuck this W out. They did throw 1 interception, but they had 3 total fumbles. 2 of them they lost. And, you're just not going to win the game when you have 4 turnovers against a team like Notre Dame who's got very, very explosive offense at times.
They fumbled the freaking opening kickoff. It was
tough scene, especially at Notre Dame.
The game, and the thing is, the game really cleaned up in the second half. Like it became more of the style of football that I was expecting. Like it was competitive on both sides. Like teams they were moving the ball, but not, there wasn't many explosive plays. Notre Dame didn't have many explosive plays the entire day. I'm telling you, Louisville gave them the game. They made it to where Notre Dame didn't have to work that hard to win, and you cannot do that against a top 15 team.
Right. Huge game for Notre Dame to win and pull through if they're looking for a playoff spot too. Tough for Louisville, but I think they'll still have a shot to be in the fight come the back half of the season.
The schedule Louisville's got a couple tests coming up that are really going to, like, people are sleeping on this game with SMU that's coming up. SMU is a legitimate football team.
Absolutely.
Right? They're a 4-1 team and they're 1-0 in ACC conference play. So it's good. The road doesn't get any easier for Louisville. They're about to get tested a couple more times, and I think that'll show us what kind of team they really are. Nate, what'd you have on this one?
I had Louisville +7, which that actually hit. I think I might have said -6.5 on here. I'm not sure, but when I went into Bovada, I did go +7.
Thank God.
You better have the receipts. You better have the receipts, or I'm not counting it.
I do have that. I just think, like, at the end of the day, like, I did not, and I think I said it, I did not think Notre Dame was going to score over 30 points.
I'm telling you, dude, I didn't either, and they would not have if Louisville didn't make so many mistakes in their own side of the field.
Like you said, Louisville gave them this game. Their offense was very productive in the second half, but at the end of the day, when you turn the ball over that many times,
that's it.
It happens, because Notre Dame hadn't shown all year that they can have explosive plays that score that much. So,
and they drove the ball, and it looked fine. Like, it was 5 yards there, 6 yards there, like. They converted well on third down because they put themselves in easy, like, 3rd and 3s, 3rd and 2s, but, like, there's no chunk plays where I was like, wow, this offense is crazy, They just kind of were efficient with the ball.
Yeah.
All right. So Will also had Louisville money line. So Nate, you're the only one that you pushed. So you're the only one that didn't lose. All right, let's do it. The moment we've all been waiting for. Georgia and Alabama. Brandon or Nate, I will let either of you guys dive in, and let's just have a little dialogue about the game of the decade, as I'm going to call it going forward.
Brandon,
Go
you wanna
ahead,
go or you
Nathan.
want me to get it?
Oh, okay. Okay.
I mean, like, I guess my word of the day for the weekend is epic. I mean, this game, like you said, Cam, was the best game I've watched in years. It was a tale of two halves, right? Bama was dominant first half. Georgia was dominant second half. Bama just kind of turned it on at the end to keep up with them. And, that crazy play that Ryan Williams had. Like, that's it. Simple as that. I'm not going to lie to y'all. Whenever Carson Beck, was it Bell that scored that last touchdown? Right, with like 2 minutes or 3 minutes left?
I think so.
Yeah, dude, whenever he scored that touchdown, I actually got excited because I was like, they just scored way too early.
Yep.
So
A little
I got
too
excited about
explosive.
it. Yeah. But I'll just kind of go over a few things that stuck out to me this game. I'm not going to get too deep in it. I'm going to let Brennan, go into it also. But Carson Beck struggled without the weapons he's had, right? I mean, I'm talking the first half right now. Like, you could see the struggles come out, without Ladd or without Brock or any of them. But he did find a way to turn that around the second half, and they did beat us deep. The one thing I was very impressed with, though, and I'm just going to get away from Bama's offense because we know how electric they were. I'll speak on that just a little bit, but my biggest focus is Bama's defense. Like, they went out and did better than everybody was expected. The biggest worry was secondary. They're all young. I think we start two true freshmen on the defensive side. I was really worried about the deep routes. Luckily, Carson Beck did make some bad throws to some open receivers. But at the end of the day, I mean, we gave up just a few deep balls. I mean, they did a lot better than I thought they would, even with those few the second half that he did complete for touchdowns. But, yeah, I mean, they were flying around, deflecting passes, not too much pressure on the quarterback, which I don't know if that was by design. I'm not sure what happened there. I do know that we didn't let ETN really get going on the ground, so that was huge. We made Beck try to win the game himself, and he almost did, right? But that's really my biggest takeaway is Bama's defense is better than I thought it was going to be. I mean, even though we did give up 34, it was to Georgia. Georgia's still, in my opinion, one of the best teams in the country. A lot of people say our first half really showed they're not. They are. Don't care what anybody says. They are. But that's really it. I mean, I could talk about the offense all day long, but we saw what Milroe did. We saw what Williams did. You want me to go ahead and have my take on that, or you want me to wait till the end?
Let's Brandon have a little bit,
Okay.
and then we can go into that.
Yeah. We can go back and forth just a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I would give, ton of respect to Milroe. I think he's definitely taken a step up in his career and gotten better at some of the things that he wasn't as good as last year. Like remember that week 2 Texas game last year, stuff like that.
Yeah.
But I think you're right on mostly your points about the defense. As far as I think the game plan from the Alabama side was to force Carson Beck to make plays and, do stuff that he's probably not really tested on a lot in games, which is throw balls in tight windows, hit deep shots, stuff like that with pressure. Just with how big the game was, and I think they used that to their advantage. And I think Georgia, I would say, disappointing loss, disappointing showing from Carson Beck early in the game, and disappointing defense, but nonetheless, still kind of proud of the way they played. I mean, they lost the game, but they're one moment or two moments away from winning that game, even how badly they started the game. So, I mean, you take away obviously the crazy catch that happened that Alabama scored on. You take that moment away. You take away the bad interception Carson Beck threw. And funny story about that interception. Now, I no excuses. That's a terrible ball. But there was obviously some miscommunication because if you go back and you actually watch that play, it seemed like there was a check at the line to call a screen that the wide receiver probably didn't hear because Carson Beck threw it as if it were supposed to be a screen, and the lineman blocked as if it were supposed to be a screen.
Yep.
It was
Now,
to
if
Smith,
you-
right?
If you watch
Is that-
the receiver on the inside, he runs a slant, and there is nobody within 5 yards of him.
Yep.
So that very easily could have been a touchdown play right there. I'm also upset at what's his name, the transfer from Colby Young, the transfer from Miami. The last play of the game, the interception, like with the game on the line and we're throwing a deep shot to the end zone right there, and you're 6'3", 225, to just kind of not go up aggressively for that ball against a smaller defender, like all he had to do was put his foot in the ground and go get the football, and if we score a touchdown, we tie the game up or
even
go
offensive
for 2.
pass interference.
Yeah, I was about to say, even if you're gonna like play defense on the
Yeah.
throw, like a lot of the best 50-50 receivers in football know that sometimes you have to do that, and that's a play that they're gonna make. Like if it's offensive pass interference, it is what it is, but you have to make a play on the ball.
Yeah,
So,
I mean, there's no way you can let that be an interception. And
No, not in
and
that
lose the
situation, not
game
in any
like that.
situation, but not in that situation.
So, real quick, touching on that because we just brought that up, dude. That's the most offensive pass interferences I've ever seen in one game. I don't know about
Yeah,
y'all.
dude, they were
At the
letting-
college level, for sure.
See,
They
like-
let them fight. They let them fight. They let
Yeah.
receivers. They let them go at it. And
Like-
they were calling it tight.
Georgia fans are obviously gonna like point out the one pass interference call in the end zone that wasn't called, but I mean, on the flip side, Georgia had a lot of pass interference that weren't called either. So
Yeah.
I think
They let
I
them
think
play.
it was more so controlled well by the refs of them letting each team play, but I mean that goes to the point of Colby Young. Like, you've sat there and watched the receivers be able to fight and do pretty much whatever the entire game, and for you to not go up and be more aggressive to make that
Yeah.
catch to tie the
For
game
sure.
is
I
just
will
upsetting.
say that was like a back shoulder pick, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, I thought
Like,
it was a
it was-
good ball by Carson
Yeah.
Beck. Like, that's the place
Hey,
you throw
yeah.
that.
I think that's
Yeah.
where he wanted to throw it.
Yeah.
I think that's where he wanted to put it.
There was also some deep shots that Carson Beck missed, which I think in the very first episode we had is I said that's the reason why Carson Beck won't be the Heisman, is because that deep ball shot is just so inconsistent.
Yep.
Yeah,
Some of the misses
And
are
I
bad,
was
too.
it excited me too because I feel like Georgia probably, this is what Alabama wanted them to do, but Georgia didn't run their typical Georgia offense. I don't think it was the game plan. I think it's because they couldn't, but it was like every second down we were getting a deep ball of some sort.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like Carson Beck tried to throw the ball 50 times. He was 27 for 50. I mean, dude
But he
had
had
439 yards.
I was about to say it was
but-
like 430 yards.
Yeah,
So you
I
can
mean,
tell
he
he was
was-
trying to take the top off.
Yeah,
He was
and
trying to go over the top a
I
bunch
think
of times.
that's exactly what Alabama wanted the game to be right there. It's just let's have Carson Beck air it out, and if he beats us, he beats us. But I don't think Alabama thinks that he couldn't. And obviously,
No.
we're like two or three deep shots, being connected from winning the game. But I think that's exactly what Alabama wanted. And just kind of upsetting that Georgia came out so slow, man. Like, you gotta, as players, you've got to know that Alabama's going to want to come out and punch you in the mouth very quickly, especially at their own house. So for us to just lay 21-0 at the end of the fourth or at the end of the first quarter is just like, what were we expecting? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like,
So real quick, let me just kind of give you this stat, and it's going to be mind blowing if y'all hadn't seen it yet. So Milroe had 117 of the 173 rush yards.
It's a good job containing right there.
yeah, I mean,
So-
as an offense, there's really no point trying to run the ball when your quarterback's the best running back on the team.
You
Yeah,
see
it's
what
like
you see
Auburn
what
with Cam
Kirby
Newton.
said?
Like, they didn't need a running back. It was just,
Do you see what
Right.
Kirby said when they asked him why they didn't double Ryan Williams?
no.
No.
They said they literally have a running back that can throw the football.
Well, yeah.
Yeah.
They got the best running back in the country that can throw a football.
Yeah.
But yeah, and on the other side too, what was Georgia's final rushing yard stats? Let's see if I can pull it up real quick. So Georgia,
They
as a
only had
team,
80 on the
20
ground.
80 on the ground and 26 carries.
Yep.
Yeah, and I think that's the game changer.
I mean, you're like 5 yards away from being almost close to 4 yards a carry, which typically isn't bad if you're averaging out per carry stat. But I mean,
No, but
typically
that's
you
not-
see it flipped, where you see Georgia try to run the ball 50 times. And
That's
then
what
you
I'm.
see
That's what I'm
back throw the
saying.
ball
Like
27
a sample
times
size.
total.
Sample size of in the mid-20s for a run game for that team is not a recipe for success for them. So I mean, even if it's 3.8, if it's got to be like 40 carries, because that would have slowed the game down a little bit. And then the 21-0 doesn't happen. But then I get it. It's like, okay, well, now it's 21-0. Like, we can't run the ball anymore at that
Yeah,
point.
so
Like, we've got to start airing it out. We've got to get back in this game.
I mean, I think that's a shout out for both defenses too. I mean, if Milrow's not the fastest college football player in the country, Alabama's probably looking at a similar maybe 100 yards as a team on the
Yes.
ground, probably the same stat. So
Yeah, they just had the X factor was
Yeah.
Milroe and what he can do with his legs.
I mean, so Georgia averaged 3.1 and their longest rush was 12. That's what hurt them at the end of the day.
Yeah.
and I'm
Which Bama's run defense, I mean, I'll be the first one to say it. They impressed me. Like, I was not expecting them to do that.
Yeah, I mean, luckily for Georgia, we have an easy bounce back week against Auburn. So I'll be interested to see, you know, there's going to be a lot of information about how this Georgia team kind of responds after that. Still saying I'd be pretty confident if we rolled up again against Alabama. Like, I was confident in Georgia going into this week. And then, you know, I think I'd be even more so confident playing them again.
It made me confident in Georgia, and it also made me less confident in almost every other program in the country. Like, I really I think this is the two best teams
I
in
think
the
we
country
watched
going at
the-
it. Like,
we
I
watched it.
think this is it, 1 and 2, honestly.
You know how the NBA has the like mid-season tournament?
Yeah.
Well, we just watched the mid-season national
Yeah.
championship.
Yeah.
So it really sucks these teams are both in the SEC.
No, yeah.
Yeah.
Because
But,
I mean, even last year, like you go back to last year, I think Georgia, Alabama in the SEC championship was the national championship, right? Like,
Yeah, I agree. I mean, you can make a case for, Michigan was a pretty elite tier, but now in this year too, it's like, it's supposed to be Ohio State, right? And I guess like for me, it's like in Texas, and I've got to see that both of those teams. Like, I guess Texas did pass their first test against a Michigan team that wasn't really ready to play. But like Ohio State is the other one that, this is like a top 4 team, and I've got to see it from them. But otherwise, to me, it's Georgia and Bama are the two best, which is why I'm glad we have the different playoff format.
I would
year.
say, like, looking at this game, if you throw any other top team right now that's in the top 10, and you throw them and say, if I were to say, okay, Texas and Alabama are playing, or Ohio State and Alabama are playing, and they're going to go up 21 points in the first quarter. It's going to be 21-0.
Who's not laying down. Yeah. Which they're
Literally,
laying down.
I would see any other team that plays Alabama in that situation. It's like a 52-3 ball game.
Yep,
at the end
they're
of it.
laying down.
So for Georgia to come back and take the lead at this point and have a chance to, have a game-winning drive at the end is pretty impressive. It kind of reminds me of, just the atmosphere Georgia brings, where, a couple years ago when they won the national championship, I mean, they were down to Ohio State pretty big and then came back and won that game at the end. So, I mean, I think that's just – I think what Georgia needs to fix is they got to stop. I really think their game plan is to come into the game and feel it out for a quarter and see what the other team's running and then make adjustments, because they can do that and they have the athletes to do that. But, I mean, with a team like Alabama, you go ahead and lay 21 points for them. I mean, there's not a lot you can do coming back from that.
Brandon,
so it's very impressive they did.
We've been Georgia fans for a long time now. Every year we say Georgia's a second-half team. Georgia's a third-quarter team. It's like that is just their MO. That is the style of football that they play. They're fine playing tightly contested games in the first half and then making those second-half adjustments. Like, that is just how they have been for as long as I can remember.
Right.
It's just hard to do that when you're already down by 28.
Yeah, I would have been fine with them being down at half, but what was it, like 28
30 to 7.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, that's just too much of a difference to try to come back and win a ball game.
So my biggest thing is I'm not sitting here and saying Kalen DeBoer is better than Nick Saban or anything like that. But any other time we've played Georgia in the past, we've not had this electric of an offense. I mean, you could say Lane Kiffin's was, but that was back when times were different, right?
Yeah.
But this is a different offense, and if you get down to Bama this year, like it's going to be hard to make a comeback. And the fact that Georgia did it, I mean, that's impressive in itself.
Right. And I think DeBoer's offense is really good, but like if you don't have, which is gonna be something we probably look at when we look at like next season's Alabama teams, when they don't have the fastest player at quarterback in the NCAA. How's that going to work? Because I feel like a lot of those runs that he broke off were just because everybody was covered up. Georgia had a good scheme to cover the pass, and they were just hoping that Milroe wouldn't run for 170 yards, and he did.
Yeah. Next year's going to be a lot more of a Michael Penix offense with either Austin Mack or Ty Simpson, which are very good throwers. So Ty Simpson's going to play more of a Michael Penix role, I think. And he's a little faster, but you can't just design runs with him like you can.
Yeah, I think it's just it's a different style of offense that they're going to have to play next year. I think, like you said, Georgia did a good job of covering people downfield, but it's like that's why it became so dangerous, because they didn't account for the guy that was behind the line of scrimmage with the ball.
Right.
And it's like, okay, so what if you do put a spy on Milroe, and what if you do contain him? Okay, well now there's one guy now there's a guy open downfield, and it's like, how do you account for both of those things? And I think it's DeBoer, but it's also that personnel on the offensive side of the ball that makes that team so dangerous.
And I think, shout out to DeBoer too, because there's a lot of coaches that have considered two-way quarterbacks that can run and throw. And there's just like, what I see in college football is guys try to get really like way too cute and try to disguise these quarterback runs, and they try to do this and that to make it, catch the defense. Dude, Alabama will go out there and they'll run just a single quarterback set. They'll put 5 wide, and they're going to say, we're running the ball with Milroe right here. We don't care if you know that or not. You're just going to have to try to stop us. So, I mean, I credit to that, because there's a lot of stuff that I see where they do try to design the quarterback runs and it ends up hurting them. But they're going to say, Alabama's like, we're going to throw 8 guys out here to block for you, and you're the fastest player in college football.
Make a
Run
play.
the ball.
Yeah, make a play.
So,
Nate, do you have something else that you wanted to go
Yes.
into? We're going to do like a semi-baked beans segment while we're on the topic we all want to discuss.
Yeah, it's going to be real quick. First off, I just want to say I hope people's bought into DeBoer now. A lot of people are on the fence, but I hope they're on the DeBoer train. Great coach.
I'm bought
But
in.
so anyways, so Brennan, I actually gave Cam a little sneak peek of this earlier, and I'm excited to hear your opinion.
okay.
Is it possible that this year, and I'm not sure this has happened in the past in history, I'll have to double check, but I'm pretty sure it hasn't. Is it possible this year a team has 2 Heisman candidates in New York? And by that, I mean Jalen Milroe and possibly Ryan Williams. Even at 17.
I definitely don't think Ryan Williams, just because he's a freshman. And I also don't think, because I couldn't tell you the last time, it had to have been in like early 2010s, that a non-quarterback won a Heisman or was even a candidate for a Heisman.
Devontae Smith won the Heisman a few years back.
So, and was there anybody at Georgia or Alabama that was, and he was a senior or junior when he won that, right?
Mark Ingram, Derrick Henry, Devontae Smith.
Well, yeah, I'm saying at the same time, like.
Oh, yeah. He was so I will say this, though, and people were talking about Devontae's Heisman year with all the stats he has. Ryan Williams is on pace to break that. So, again, I'll just kind of give you a recap of what his season is right now. Let me pull it up. It's actually insane.
If any non-quarterback should win Heisman this year, it's Boise State's running back.
John T.
No, so that's who I think, if these two, and I'm just being biased here, I think he's the third one. So this year, Ryan Williams already has 16 receptions, 462 yards, and 5 touchdowns. He averages 29 a catch.
29 a catch.
I mean,
Yeah.
he's definitely putting up a good, candidate or campaign for himself.
Do you think he's in the talks?
I think right now he is, especially after that game. My concern with him being there at the end is he's a little bit of a like deep threats are like boom or bust kind of guys. So you can't guarantee he's going to have a game where he pops off and goes for 180, but he's also going to have a game where because those deep routes are inherently harder to hit, he might not put up the consistent number. Like his big splash numbers are going to be like, holy cow, like this guy is elite, like, you know, against Georgia. But he's also going to have other games where he's a little bit quieter because people can play for the deep route. And yes, he can make people miss. And yes, he's a good yard after the catch guy as well. But his biggest plays are on deep routes, which are not always consistent. Therefore, I cannot guarantee he will have that many games where he puts up those kinds of numbers to keep himself in the conversation.
Yeah.
Right.
So his 4 games is 139, 68, 78, 177.
That's what I'm saying. So if it's if we're looking at 120, 125, 130, 125, I think it's a little bit of a different conversation, and it's also the number of receptions because it's all about, you know, the yards during the play for him. I think the number of receptions is going to hurt him, just because you're not going to guarantee those touches. He's not going to have a 9-catch, 130-yard game consistently. He's going to have 3 for 90. You know.
Yeah, and I
I think that's different.
I think Tennessee might be the best defense we have left to play this year. I mean, you could say South Carolina, possibly, but
no,
I think that game. I mean, I'm talking about out of the remainder of our schedule.
Oh, sure,
mean,
So,
yeah.
If you look at
we know LSU's is bad, Mizzou's
Right.
is mid.
Tennessee hasn't been tested at all
Yeah,
because they played their hardest game was Oklahoma and they're trash. And then you know South Carolina, their biggest weapon on their team is their defensive line, and
our offensive line.
It literally doesn't matter if you have like Michael Strahan over there. Milrose outrunning everybody. It doesn't matter. So
Which I guess we don't really need to get into Milroe that much about Heisman talks. I mean,
he's in that thing.
He should. I can pull it up real quick, but I'm pretty sure he's on pace to have like 48 touchdowns and over 4,000 yards.
I don't want to say it's done, but I mean, if nothing, he'd have to get hurt. I think at this point, or just have a total like.
Because I think
he's number one to me.
Stats wise, Jackson Dart was kind of lighting it up, but then they lost, and I see them losing like 3 games this year. So
yeah, they had a bad game, dude. They had a bad
good
game.
competition come in.
Like Caleb Williams won the Heisman last year. You can't sit here and tell me that Jalen Milroe is going to have a worse season than Caleb Williams.
I can't do it.
There's no shot.
I can't do it. I
There's
think
I'll tell you who's going to give him a run for his money, though, is Ashton Johnson. I'll get into him a little bit later, but
Facts.
he's going to give him a run for his money.
I mean, he's video game numbers, but yeah, we'll talk about him later. But Jonty's video game numbers, but dude, Milroe is video game numbers as well.
So last time we did the Heisman numbers, I think Milroe was like plus 1,200. Yeah, plus 1,400.
He's
He's now the favorite, and he's at plus 175.
Yeah, it's
so shout out anybody who took him when he was at plus 1,400 because
that's massive.
You're not getting a whole lot of money back if you bet him now.
That should have been you, Nate. That should have been you.
Facts.
You would have made that pick. Because all of us were saying, well, I said he was going to be good. I said he was going to end up being a good quarterback this year. But
I just needed to wait and see, yeah.
We were dumping on him last year.
Ashton Jeanty is at plus 900, though. So sucks, Snake, because your boy's not even on the list right now. That could change. But
I think he's going to end up on the, like, not the short list unless,
right.
I mean,
he should be top 10.
I think he can make himself into like a dark horse candidate.
If
Milroe
the
finished
season
7th last year, I think Ryan Williams could possibly creep up in there.
If the season ended
that's a valid
today, we would see Milroe, Cam Ward, Travis Hunter, Ashton Jeanty, and Dylan Gabriel in New York.
All deserved.
Yep.
All deserved.
Quinn Ewers is at plus 2,500. So
he's got to play football. Yeah. Otherwise, he's gonna keep dropping.
I'm not saying he's a bad quarterback, but his chances are kind of done for Heisman.
I think so too.
And
There's too many
Tennessee's
other guys
quarterback
playing well.
is actually tied odds-wise with Dylan Gabriel. So
Nico could be in the same boat as Ryan Williams if you want to put it like they're
Right.
young.
I think Nico, if he keeps having a really good season, has a better shot because he's a quarterback. Yeah. So I mean, I can pull up the past Heisman winners list, and just see outside of
The last non-quarterback was Devontae, and that was just a few years ago.
Yeah, so we have Devontae in 2020. The last guy that was not a quarterback was Henry in 2015, Derrick Henry. And then the last one after that is Mark Ingram in 2009.
2009.
So, like, unless you play for Alabama,
That's Alabama.
you're
They're all
only winning a
Alabama.
Heisman unless you're a quarterback.
Yep. And so, I mean, Ryan Williams does play for Alabama and is not a quarterback.
He's not a
so-
quarterback.
So, like,
No, I think it's valid.
past 3 years, we have Bryce Young, Caleb Williams, Jaden Daniels, and you cannot tell me Jalen Milroe's season aren't better than any of those guys.
He's having one of the best seasons I ever remember watching.
Yeah. What's their schedule look like, Nate? Are they about to have some more challenges coming up?
Let me pull it up for you real quick. I just had it.
I don't think their
dude,
slate's
more-
as hard as Georgia's
I'm not-
slate
I'm-
in the next couple weeks, but
I'm not going to sit here and say Bama's like the best thing ever, but I will say, seeing all this competition they have coming up play, I'm a lot more confident we could go possibly 10-2 or 11-1.
no.
Ten-
Y'all played your hardest game this past
I'm saying.
Saturday. And I mean,
I'm saying.
Only
I don't- I'm looking at the
only
schedule right
because
now, and
we
I
go
don't
to
see who
Tennessee
y'all
and
lose
we go to
to.
LSU.
They
I'm
go
just
to
saying,
Tennessee.
and we go to
That-
LSU.
That's the biggest game. Dude, if I were you, I wouldn't worry the slightest bit about
So-
LSU.
I'm thinking maybe 11-1 worst case scenario.
And I hate to say it, I mean this could just be a different year, but Auburn's always it's always a toss up. Like
Not this year.
Auburn,
That's just
no.
Auburn was awful with TJ Finley a few years ago, and it took us a 50-something second drive for 100 yards to win that game,
No.
It's not this year, man.
and 3
Yeah.
overtimes.
Not this year.
Which I'll get into Auburn a little bit later. But I think there's still a couple on the schedule that I'm still a little worried about, and that's only because we travel to them.
I'm like
For me,
literally if I'm
Tennessee.
DeBoer, I'm literally like there's a couple plays I'm gonna have if like we just need some yardage. Like you're playing NCAA 25 and you need like a quick first down.
You need your
just call
go-to.
the jet sweep. Yeah, literally there should be like 3 plays that are just like Milroe run left, Milroe run right, and Milroe quarterback draw.
Wait till
And
they
we'll
pull
get
out
a
that
first
speed-
down.
The draw is
Wait till they-
deadly.
Wait till they pull out the speed option.
Because I'm looking at the schedule, and there's not a team I'm seeing on here that has more team speed than Georgia. And like, I mean, yeah, you do play at Tennessee and at LSU, but I think LSU is just kind of fraudulent. I mean, they almost lost to South. They should have lost to South Carolina.
I think the one thing that we'll be able to do against Tennessee that will help us win is we will put more pressure on Nico than he's ever faced.
Yeah, I think so as well.
Yeah.
And I
But-
just don't. Tennessee's defense hasn't been tested at all. I don't think their opponents. I mean, I know they played Oklahoma, but like just like Lane Kiffin said about Ole Miss, is he didn't think his opponents prepared the team for SEC play. So
That's real. That's a real thing.
And I think, I mean, you play Georgia or Alabama. There's nothing that can prepare you for that. So
Yeah.
especially with a freshman, a redshirt freshman quarterback.
Yeah.
I mean, Carson Beck's a fifth-year senior, and he still struggled.
True. He's as experienced as he
And
gets.
he's been at the highest level of college football. I mean,
Oh yeah.
All right.
I'm good
Anything
on
else on this game?
I think we're good. I mean,
All right.
we could probably talk about it for
I
a
know.
whole episode.
I know.
There's
It's already
probably
almost
not going to be a better game than that all year,
No,
or like
it's-
the next few years, unless
It's
we
kind
see
of
like
a bummer. It's kind of a
really
bummer because
good.
we got the rest of the season, and it's like you're gonna compare like the games of the week for like we're gonna go over the games of the week for this coming weekend, and I was like, oh,
Yeah.
you know, and we're probably gonna feel that way for the next couple weeks.
I mean,
at least
move-
probably until like October 19th. I think we got some bangers.
Moving forward, like just as far as SEC goes and like the SEC championship, it's going to be weird because Alabama's probably already solidified their place. I would say,
Even if they
Now,
lose a game.
Georgia, Georgia already has to go because Texas and Georgia play each other, and then I forget the rest of the schedule, but like you still got to look at Tennessee. Yeah, and Tennessee, Alabama. So like there could be a pretty good opportunity to see like Georgia, Texas, Tennessee, and Alabama all at like 1 or 2 losses. So
Yeah.
just depending on where those losses come from, talking about like head-to-head matchups, it could get wild down to the wire.
100%.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, I'm good.
all right, so for this game, Nate, you had Bama. I also had Bama. So I won. We won coin, but my heart was broken. So that was a tough game for me.
Yep.
Brandon, I know you had Georgia.
Yep.
I feel for you. And then Will had the over, which definitely hit.
Definitely.
So everyone but Brandon got a dub there.
It's funny too
Um,
because a lot of people were like Georgia, Alabama, wouldn't mind taking an under because just a hard fought like trying to run the football game.
It was
So
48.5, and they scored a combined total of 70 something.
and it was like a combined passing yards of like 700.
Yeah.
It was pushing. I think it was pushing 8 or a little more.
Well, yeah,
which
because
is
Beck threw for
insane.
like 430.
Yeah,
threw
I
for
think
more than
Milrow
Milrow.
had like 3 something.
Yeah. All right, so let's go. We're going to go to the opposite end of the spectrum. We're going to talk about our toilet bowl game of the week. Man, how about that? Going from Bama, Georgia to LA Tech and Florida International University.
Dude, it's how they need to like do what do they call it in soccer? And they like
Relegation.
Relegation?
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
relegation.
Dude,
Yeah,
there needs to be
the
some-
bottom 3 teams get dropped out of the league. They just said, no, you go play
There's no
FCS now.
way that these two teams are in the same league as Alabama and Georgia.
And I'm not gonna lie to you guys. I'm not gonna lie to you. I did not watch. I didn't turn this game
I
on.
didn't watch either. No,
Toilet
I
bowl
may
for a
have
reason.
checked like
Yeah.
ESPN once, but
I
on my
kept
phone.
track. I kept
Ask
track of
him
it.
Who won an hour ago?
Yeah. I tracked it because I knew we were going to talk about it. FIU won the game. All 3 of us
Hell.
either had LA Tech money line or LA Tech covering the spread. I guess the lesson here is it doesn't matter if a team is favored if they're already bad at football.
Yep.
So we made that mistake. They were like minus 150 favorites. And I was like, you know what? Let me just get an easy dub here. And then they lost 17-10. Neither team had more than 3 yards rushing on the ground. Neither
Solid.
team had more than 7 yards passing in the air per
Solid.
play. It was a combined total of just over 300 yards per team, or total combined both teams. It's like 150 yards apiece. So no offense to speak of, no explosive plays, just as bad of a game as we thought it would be. We just didn't pick the right winner. So next time we probably go with the home team. I think maybe that's what we do with the next one. And
I
we've
like
got
that.
one for you coming up later on in the episode. So strap in.
Yes.
All right, let's go to individual plays. Go to individual
Yep.
plays. Recap last week, individual plays. Nate, we're going to start with you. Go over your 3.
Yeah, so first I had Texas Tech over 30.5, and that hit by like 14.
Yes, it did.
So offense looked really good. I knew it was gonna be a high scoring game because Cincy's their pass defense is not that great. Texas Tech lost. I wasn't comfortable picking them for that game, so took the over on their points. My plus money of the week was BYU money line at Baylor. BYU's impressed me the past few weeks. I don't know about y'all if y'all have watched much of it, but they look like a solid team, and they are for sure like on the cusp of being a playoff contender.
Yep.
You know, they could compete in the Big 12 or possibly win the league.
Are they in the top 25 yet?
Let me find their exact ranking. I think they might be in the top. Give me a second. Yeah, they're 22. I expect them to break the top 15 in the next week or so if they keep playing like this.
Yeah.
So they look really good. So I got that at plus money. My one pick I thought was just absolutely going to bang. Did not bang.
Your
was
lock
the
was
only-
not a lock.
It was the only one I missed. This one was not my lock. If I'm not mistaken, I think the Tech was my lock.
Oh, okay.
But UCF minus 14 at Colorado, boys. Listen,
Brandon, you got anything on this game?
Which one?
Listen.
Say it again, Nate.
Listen. UCF and Colorado. I'll tell you right now. So I'll just say the stats. UCF passed for 284, rushed for 177. Pretty good numbers.
It was always the boys in Boulder,
Hey,
man.
Seems like it was.
KJ Jefferson had 2 interceptions. They just couldn't finish the drives. Their offensive production was good, like we expected. But one thing I was worried about is with an offense like Colorado's going against a okay defense like UCF, that just doesn't really, always work, I guess you could say. I knew it was going to be a high-scoring game, but I thought UCF was going to put up more than 21 on a buns defense of Colorado. So, yeah, I don't have too much on this game. It's just very disappointing. It was a home game for UCF. They were 3-0 heading into it, coming off a bye week, if I'm not mistaken. And they go down there and just get torched by the Buffs. So,
I love it.
So you were, what, 2-1?
Yeah, I went 2-1, and I will say UCF, in my opinion, is still a very good football team. Their defense, man, like, you cannot get shredded like that.
Nope.
Like, Colorado, man, listen, their offensive line is one of the worst in football, right? Like, we can agree with that. They rushed for 128 on 29 carries. They averaged 4.5 yards a touch. I mean, you can't let that happen.
Nope.
But anyways, y'all go ahead. I'm a little disappointed in that, but
All right, I'm gonna do Will's. His notes are like super cryptic, but I think I can do this. Like the U's are like V's. It's like he typed in Arabic. I don't know what's up, but like I got it. All right, so he went 2-1, bringing his total for individual plays to 11-8. So he's 11-8 on the season.
Nice.
Nate, do you have yours? Do you know what you are on the season?
Yeah, give me just a second.
Yep. That'll give me time to decipher this.
What'd you say he was? I'm just trying to make sure.
11-8
is correct. 19. Okay. 10-9, I believe.
Okay. All right, so he had his first one, Nebraska, -10 versus Purdue. They ended up winning 28-10, so that one hit. It was actually kind of a nail-biter going into the fourth. The thing was like scoreless at half, and then 7-3 going into the fourth quarter, and then Nebraska just opened it up on him. So they ended up winning by 18. He covered there. Nebraska's a solid football team. I think they are. I think
Raiola
not
looks
like
good.
a top. Yeah, for sure. They got a good quarterback. Next one, Ohio State. First half, -13.5 over Michigan
Banged.
State. Yeah, that absolutely banged. They were up 24-7 at the half, which by my count is 17 and is greater than 13.5. Nate, can you verify that for me? 17 more than 13.5.
God, I don't work in numbers no more.
We'll say
Yes.
he got it. Okay, yes? Okay, good. All right.
Let's
so we
go.
got that. He doesn't have a ton on the notes side. Really, Ohio State defense kind of won the day here. Just a really dominant showing from the defensive side from Ohio State, which is good to see from them, especially as a top 5 contender. Last one, this one did not hit. So he went 2-1. This was Oregon and UCLA. He had it going over 56.5. He wrote Ethan Garbers is ass. So I just had to. He wrote that down. So I feel like, and it was all caps. So I feel like I
Fair.
had to say it. Final score was 34-13. It was actually like 28-10 at the half, and so I'm pretty sure he thought like this is about to bang. But they scored like no points for the rest of the game. Ended up 34-13. I think Oregon just kind of took their foot off the gas with the big lead. But that's so 2-1 for him, and then we'll go into I got to go straight to mine. He's got to come back. I can't keep doing it like this. All right, so my ACC plays. I also went 2-1. My first one. This is the one everyone was like, they're going to beat the crap out of them. This is not even going to be a game. And I said, fellas, what I said, if it's going to happen, it's going to be this weekend.
Yep.
And my God, it did. Miami won the game 38-34. Did you guys watch this thing?
Yeah, I was going to say that could be another nomination for Game of the Week.
That was
or Game
a
of the Year, excuse me.
banger. Banger of a game.
Still a controversial ending to that
I
game.
mean,
What do you guys? Oh, okay.
So initially, I thought they shouldn't have called it a catch on the field. I thought they should have called it incomplete on the field or whatever. That way, you can look at the replay and it's probably easier to confirm.
Yeah.
But I still don't think it was a catch either. So
You don't think it was a catch?
No. I
Do you
don't
think it was
he
a
caught the
catch,
ball.
Nate?
So my biggest thing with this, and this kind of goes to the refs. I mean, not really as much as what actually happened. Once you call that a touchdown on the field, I do not know if it should have been reversed either way.
Fair.
Because nobody had a clear view of it. I mean, we couldn't really see much. We all watched the replay. We couldn't see much.
There was no angle. There's no
Yeah,
angle
so-
that was definitive.
And I'm not going to sit here and say conferences are biased, even though they probably are. You're the ACC headquarters, right? In your mind, you're like, if we call this a catch, and it stands. Miami's got a loss on their schedule, right? I'm just saying,
True.
like Virginia Tech, they can lose a game, whatever. If Miami loses one, they lose two. If it builds up, you see what happens. And I'm not saying that's the case, but I am saying, like, I wonder if that did have some kind of, or if that did cause them to overturn that.
And I get what you're saying. I like to think it's not the case, but like obviously, like Cam Ward Cam Ward's a selling point in football. Like he's one of the most exciting players to watch. So like you can see a world where that is a thing. For me, the other thing you said about what was the call on the field? Okay, it's a catch, right? So it's like this is what we talk about all the time. If it's not definitive the other direction, they have two different sets of verbiages that they use. Like it either is confirmed or the call stands, okay? The call stands if there's no definitive proof that anything else happened and they can't tell. So they always go with the initial call, right? I mean, that is what happens 9 times out of 10. If all of us look at the cameras and everyone looks at the cameras and there was not a clear view of anything, you couldn't tell one way or the other what it was.
I watched it 20 times and I
So,
still couldn't tell
You don't know. So it's like
we did see at one point we saw everybody fell to the ground and then you saw the ball move around a little bit, but everybody had been on the ground for like a solid second or
like
two.
the
So it
play's
kinda-
dead. The play's dead at that
Well, it
at that
comes
point.
down to like how long do you have to survive the ground
Yep.
until
'Cause
you
that's when the
see
play's
ball
whistled dead.
moving. Yeah.
If
In
you're
the end zone is different too.
Yeah, if
Right.
you're in the end zone and he holds it just for half a second,
The
it's
play's
a
done.
touchdown.
He just
Yeah.
secured. He secured the ball in the end zone. The play is over as soon as the ball is secured in the end zone. That is how
also,
that rule is written.
also, I don't think the ball ever hit the ground either.
No,
so.
it didn't.
no.
It
And I don't think-
exchanged, hands.
Yeah.
You don't know from
So,
who to what.
But half
if it
half
was-
the pile was out of bounds as well.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
Yeah, well,
I
that was.
don't
I
understand.
think that's what they ended up seeing is like when there was some semblance of control. It's like that guy's butt was out of bounds.
Right.
So,
Yeah.
but it was never definitive in my opinion. I just don't think it was. And
I
if
think
it's
it hurt Virginia Tech that a Miami guy ran out of the pile with the ball too.
yeah,
I
but
think
it's like
if they
if
come
it's
down
not in
with
the end zone,
pile,
I get it.
Right. If they come
mean-
down and the whole pile's down there and the Virginia Tech guy still has the ball at the end of everything, I think they confirm that as a touchdown.
Yeah.
If it's laying on his stomach, I mean, all you got to do is, or all he has to do is just put his hands on top of the ball.
That's
and
it.
It's a touchdown.
Yeah. And I think that factored in, like a Miami guy ran out of it. So at some point in the whole thing, there was loss of control somewhere.
So
I kind of agree. I like to Nate's point. I don't think they should have called it a catch to begin with because
Yes.
there were so much factors. I think the smarter play would have been to call it incomplete, and then if there was definitive evidence that it was a catch, then you have more of an argument. But to call it a catch on the field and then go to review and then reverse it based
can't
on that kind
reverse
of
that.
lack of knowledge,
you can't reverse that.
then it's like, okay, there's a lot of controversy in that.
Like if the call on the field is wrong, that's fine. But if you can't tell one way or
Right.
the other, whatever that call on the field, that is what they say. And every time there's a video review, like you watch the games and you see the guys talk about it, it's like if
Yeah.
they don't see anything definitive, they're not going to confirm the call. They're going to say the call stands
And
because they couldn't tell one way or the other. So it's just going to go with what on the field was.
to Nate's point, I've actually become like a small Miami fan just because they're good, and Cam Ward is really good. And
They were my favorite to win
Yeah.
the ACC.
So I think as a selling point, like I enjoy watching Miami football, which hasn't been said in a while.
Yep.
So I think, from an ACC perspective, when it could come down to the wire, when you got like Clemson and Miami, it would be much better if there was two ACC teams to make a playoff instead of, now you have two ACC teams that are probably going to make the ACC championship in Clemson and Miami. And one of them, they're both going to go in there now. If Miami loses that game with one loss, somebody's coming out of there with two losses. Now you're probably only looking at the ACC championship winner getting into the playoff instead of two teams.
And you guys both know I was high on Virginia Tech at the beginning of the year as well. That was another team. Yeah. That was my dark horse to win the ACC.
Kind of a letdown.
And so that's the other part of me is like very proud of them for the way they played. But where was this the first 4 weeks of the season?
Right.
Like this was the team that I thought was going to be the team weeks 1 through 4. Like I thought that was going to be. That's what they should have been.
That's the best team they'll play all year, and they controversially should have won the game.
Yep. So I don't know. So I'm a little confused about that part. Great game to watch. I won coin. So at the end of the day, I go home a winner.
And
but that really did bother me.
That was a Friday night game too, wasn't it?
Great way to spend the Friday.
Facts.
Great way to spend the Friday. So we'll move on. This one sucked too. Sorry. This is the one that I missed. Plus money play was North Carolina beating the Duke Blue Devils. And now I'm mad because everyone now is going to be on this Duke Blue Devil train. Oh, they're such a good team. They're so well coached. They've got such a good defense. And I'm like, no, North Carolina was up by 21 points and did not score for the rest of the game and 20 points and then let Duke get into the game after the third quarter. It was a complete letdown by UNC. They stopped moving the ball, 3 and outs, stalling on offense, just all of a sudden. And it wasn't because Duke became this great football team all of a sudden. What I will say, Duke does make second half adjustments, and they end up playing close. All of their games are close, or they win. All of their games are close. The only beatdown they had was Middle Tennessee State, which you're going to do that to Middle Tennessee State. They're a bad football team this year. But 5-point win against UConn, 6-point win against Northwestern, and then this 1-point win against North Carolina. They're not a good football team. They cannot run the ball, except for this. For 3 quarters, they could not run. They couldn't do it. They had 0 points, and inexplicably, North Carolina, who gave up 70 to James Madison the week before, forgot how to play, and they let Duke get into the game. All right, and they made Star Thomas and the Duke Blue Devils look like all-stars.
Can we talk about a Mack Brown hot seat?
So he had this interview after the James Madison loss where he literally told the players, like, I'll resign if you need me to. Like, if I can't do the job, I was like, I'll resign, and you guys can find another coach.
I feel like apparently, he's close to being on his way out.
Apparently the players were like, no, we love you. Please stay. And so I'm like, oh wow, that's great. They the locker room seems to be in a good place, and then they have this meltdown, and I'm like, I don't think it's in a good place anymore.
About the locker room if you can't win games?
I feel like he's on his way out anyway. I mean, he's an old dude.
Yeah,
he retired after Texas.
Probably. I still think there's hope for North Carolina. I have them later on in this episode. I'll talk more about it, but I'm very disappointed with that performance and how they ended that game. But also Duke, it's a valiant effort. They are an average second half team, and sometimes that's good enough to win. And now they're 5-0, and everyone thinks they're probably going to be ranked before long. It's just ridiculous.
Do they have to play Miami soon?
Or Clemson? I can't remember. They have to play one of the two. I do know that. But they play Georgia Tech this upcoming weekend, and that's good enough for me. They're not going to beat Georgia Tech.
Like it.
Last one, Northern Illinois covering. I just had them losing by less than 8 points to plus 7.5. They lost by 7. NC State, they played NC State. NC State, I mean, they really controlled this game from the beginning. Northern Illinois had 3 turnovers they pulled a Louisville, 3 turnovers on their own side of the field. One was a blocked punt that was a scoop and score. and the other 2 were sack fumbles for the quarterback for Illinois. I forgot his name. It's not worth knowing his name anymore. He's not a good quarterback. He doesn't play good football. One of those ended up on the 1-yard line. The other one ended up on like the 7, and that was where all of their points came from. So NC State, still not a good football team, still did not play good. The defense forced their turnovers and made Northern Illinois' job impossible. But the thing here is Northern Illinois played that bad and still only lost by 7 points. Like they did not deserve to win the game, and they only lost by a touchdown. So to me, that says more about NC State not being a team that can. They don't have explosive plays. They don't drive the ball downfield. I don't think they have a great quarterback. The run game is hit or miss. I think the fact that Northern Illinois was able to hang with them, playing as bad as they did, says a lot about my doubts about NC State as a football program. So I got that one. The only one I missed was North Carolina. So 2-1. That put me at, I believe it was 11. No, it was 11-8. So I'm 11-8 on my individual plays. Unless I'm wrong. It might be 10. It's either 10-9 or 11-8. I got to look again, but I'm one of those 2. But that's it for me. Go to Brandon. Do SEC. Oh yeah, you had a great weekend, so I'm excited to talk about this one.
Yeah, we had a what was it? A Cam week 3 type week.
Yeah. Yep.
We're just gonna go ahead and bite the bullet. We went 0-3, and very this week in the SEC kind of moved the needle. Like, we're trying to figure out some teams still, and we're starting to figure them out. Sucks because we lost coin on the SEC, but it'll help us out in the future. We're just going ahead and we're going to start off with probably the worst pick of all time, and that is Ole Miss minus 18.5. And as we know, Kentucky won the ball game 20-17. So, but I think Lane Kiffin was completely right when he said their opponents have not prepared them for SEC play. As their opponents leading up to this game, an SEC game, they played Furman, which they won 76-0, Middle Tennessee State University, which they won 52-3, Wake Forest, which they won 40-6, and Georgia Southern, which they won 52-13. So 4 terrible football teams before leading up to this, where on the flip side, Kentucky had to play Georgia and South Carolina, who they both played pretty close, except for the offense sucked in the South Carolina game. But they were just way more prepared. And as you watch this game unfold, it literally came down to who wanted to win more. And I think the lack of preparation, Ole Miss has never been in a spot up to this point in the season where the game was even close at any time. So I think they had the cruise control on. They were just going to ride that ship into the SEC championship and go with it. And I mean, you're looking at the stats from both quarterbacks, Vandegrift and Dart, which Dart is before this week was a top 5 Heisman candidate. Dart was 18 for 27, 261 yards, and Vandegrift was 18 for 28 with 243 yards.
The game of his life.
Serious. He came to play type day for Vandegrift, and both teams, one team had 92 yards in the ground, the other team had 93 yards in the ground. Both teams had 2 turnovers, both fumbles. I mean, it just came down to who wanted it more. And then, like I said, Kentucky pulls it out upsettingly as far as the betting side goes. But I think Kentucky's only goal this season now, like, they know they don't have a shot. They know they're not very good. They're just literally going to try to wreck seasons for people.
You know, play spoiler?
They're literally just like Darth Vader of the SEC right now. Same thing with South Carolina.
Oh, yeah. Did y'all see the go-ahead touchdown that Kentucky had, how it happened?
Yeah, it was kind of insane. But shout out Ole Miss kicker for absolutely shanking the kick to tie the game up. So
yeah, what?
I don't know how you have – guy's probably on scholarship too. Like, I don't know how you kick field goals all day, every day, and you shank one that bad.
Bad miss.
That critical situation.
Yeah.
But
like
we'll move ahead.
Screen.
We'll move ahead. It doesn't get any better from here. It kind of just stays consistently bad. But we're going to go to Auburn versus Oklahoma, which was also a heartbreaker because we took, looking back at the receipts on Bovada, we took under 47. The final score of that game, hold on, let me pull it back up, make sure it's right. Final score of that game was 27-21. So we missed
48.
the under by 1 point.
That equals 48. It's a bad beat.
You hate to see it. Actually, like I said, moving the needle as far as stuff we know about SEC teams. Oklahoma ran a new quarterback out there, a true freshman, instead of Jackson Arnold, and that dude was explosive. He showed me flashes and similarities of Milroe, actually, which I know he's probably not that guy yet. But as a freshman walking in there and into Auburn, first SEC road game, that's your first time seeing the field. I think the first play on offense, or the first drive on offense, he broke out like a 60-yard run to score. That was their first touchdown of the game.
Yep.
He went 10 for 15, 161 yards, no turnovers, so very efficient game from a true freshman. And they had two guys run the football, other than their quarterback, had 130 yards on the ground. Auburn had a chance to win the game. Peyton Thorne throws an interception. I mean, as we didn't see that coming. I think he started the game and played the whole game, which is surprising because they bounced the other guy in there for like a half last game they played,
Yeah.
and then they bounced him in there at the end of the game after Peyton Thorne threw like 3 picks.
Yep.
I just want to pull up and see how many interceptions Peyton Thorne has. 6 interceptions this year. So
It's better
far
than
already,
your boy Nate Garcia. What's his total up
True.
to now? How many interceptions does Garcia have now?
He's got to be double digits. Find that, Nate, while I talk about my last pick. So this was my plus money play of the week. Arkansas money line versus Texas A&M. We had Arkansas. I was pretty excited going into the game because it was tied at halftime. They actually had 14 points scored in the first quarter. It was 14-7, then they tied it up, and then after the first quarter, Arkansas kind of forgot that you have to like score points to win. So they were scoreless other than a field goal at the end in the fourth quarter. They lost by 4, 21-17. Still a decent game from previous dog of the week, I think, which was Taylor Green. He was 21 for 41, 279, 1 interception, 1 touchdown. I mean, that's serviceable. But I think last week's dog of the week was actually Jaquindon Jackson that had an absolute day. They held him to 37 yards, so kind of upsetting. But Texas A&M's D-line and linebackers are pretty good when it comes to, the whole scheme of college football. It was at Texas A&M, so I think a lot of that had to do with the atmosphere they were in. Another story that has been pretty fun to look at is Weigman, I think, got hurt. And this Marcel Reed cat, the guy that they put in at quarterback to replace him, just might be – I think he's won the starting job now. I think he's got 2 wins under his belt, another efficient game from a guy who wasn't the starter for his team to start the season. 11 for 22, 2 touchdowns, 0 interceptions. And Le'Veon Moss, this was the guy that was supposed to be like the big weapon out of the backfield for Texas A&M, finally breaks out and has a good game. 13 carries for 117. Just upsetting that Arkansas couldn't pull it out because that would have put them at 4-1. I think 2-0 in conference. So, we could have been seeing a pretty sweet sleeper season unfold from Arkansas, but I think after this loss, it kind of negates that whole theory.
Yeah, it's gonna be a tough road for them.
But tough week for the SEC, but I think it only gets easier from here because with the SEC, it's weird because they don't play very good teams for whatever reason. Like we saw a Georgia Clemson matchup week 1, but other than that, like SEC teams really just don't play a whole lot of tough competition early in season because the SEC is so difficult. So it's hard to get a read on teams as for the first 3 weeks or so before conference play starts. So I mean, now we know Ole Miss probably not as good as everybody thought they were to be. I mean, that's typical Lane Kiffin, really. Arkansas could be, it might take them and to cover a lot of games. They're a lot better than expected. I think Texas A&M is figuring stuff out with their new quarterback back there, and then Oklahoma might be a team to be reckoned with coming down the stretch. I think if this freshman quarterback, if they keep him in there and let him get comfortable and with his talents, we could see a pretty awesome Oklahoma-Texas matchup at the end of the season when it comes rivalry week. So, but same old Auburn. We knew they sucked coming in. They still suck coming out. So we're still going to bet whoever they play to cover the spread against them.
Absolutely. Nate, you got the Garcia interceptions?
Come on, double digits.
So he has got 11 so far.
Let's go.
So I'll just kind of go through his game log from the first game to his most recent 3, 4, 1, 1, 2. So he has not played a game without an interception yet. He's already thrown for over 1,300 yards.
I need to see that on Prize Picks. That's like an automatic over. It's like a Garcia interceptions.
I feel like he reminds me of like a young Jameis Winston in the NFL.
Just
like we're gonna throw him out there. He's gonna throw a pick or two, but he's gonna get us a lot of yards. So
he's completing 60%.
Yeah, I mean,
11 of them are to someone else.
It could easily be like 65, 70 if you just if those were just incompletions,
All right, let's all right. Sorry, Brandon, about your weekend. But I know you're going to bounce back.
Yeah,
I know you're
going to bounce back coming up.
Let's go team of the week, dog of the week, disappointment of the week, and then we'll get into our week 6 preview. Sound good?
Yep.
I do not have team of the week, dog of the week, or disappointment of the week from Will, so it's just going to be us 3.
Fair.
Team of the week, Nate, go ahead.
So, obviously, my team of the week is going to be Alabama. Don't really have to go into much detail. We've already covered all that, but that's my team of the week.
It really should probably be everyone's, honestly.
They won the game of the year, so.
Yeah. Brandon?
I'm going to go Kentucky. I mean, like I just explained, heartfelt win. They've had some tough losses against some pretty good teams, so good to see them still competing.
You guys took both of mine, so I'm going to I'm going to do this one out of spite, because a lot of the time when I pick the team of the week, they have a stinker next week, so I'm really setting these guys up. Duke is my team of the week.
I like that.
To be honest, it was a pretty gritty performance. You could easily lay down 20-0 at halftime into the third and not make a game out of it. I do think Manny Diaz is a good coach. I don't think you can really deny that. To a point, I don't think he's a national championship coach, but I think guys want to play for him, especially these Duke fellas. That's my team of the week. Going into that, I am going to have my dog of the week as Star Thomas. First time this season, a Duke running back has rushed for over 100 yards. Another reason why I'm more disappointed with UNC than I am impressed with Duke. This is the first time anyone's carried for over 100 yards. Star Thomas, 30 carries, 166 yards, a TD. It was 45 receiving yards and then another receiving touchdown. So 211 yards of total offense and 2 touchdowns. That's my dog of the week. Brandon, who is yours?
Mine is going to actually be Jalen Milroe. I mean, quarterback in the game of the year. I feel like they really only won that game because he's probably the best player in the NCAA, and probably is that'll probably go down as one of his best performances in college. So he showed up when the lights were brightest. That's my dog of the week, Milroe.
Nate?
Yeah, I could have went with numerous Alabama players, but I'm going to go with another guy that I don't know if enough people's paying attention to him, but he is going to be in New York, and we talked about him earlier, is Ashton Johnson. This man, again, had 26 carries for 259 yards.
Have a day.
Dude.
He's nasty, y'all. He's nasty.
I had it pulled up. Let me pull it up again, but his game by game, what he does. So I'm just going to go in order, 4 games. 267, 192, 127, 259.
What was he doing in that game? He only had 127.
He only had 11 carries and averaged 11 and a half.
He had 11.
They just didn't give him the ball as much.
It was against Portland State, and they won.
Oh, so
56 to
he only
14.
played a half.
Yeah,
Then.
they were
he
giving
only
him a
played
break.
Yeah.
So, dude, this might be the best running back in the country, hands down.
Yeah, for sure. Who do you have for your disappointment of the week, Nate?
So I was between a couple teams here. I'm not gonna go with UCF just because I just think that they just got outmanned by Colorado. I think that's all that was. But my disappointment is Auburn, man. You blow a 21-10 fourth quarter lead against Oklahoma. And I was actually just going through Auburn's schedule. Auburn should be 5-0 right now, guys. If you look at their schedule, they should be 5-0 if you look at all the losses. And Hugh Freeze said it. I think Kirby Smart said it when he was talking about the upcoming game against Auburn. And he just straight up said, if Auburn did not turn the ball over, whether it was fumbles or interceptions, they're a good team. I mean, their offense, when it's clicking, it clicks. But then, the interceptions or the fumbles happen or stupid mistakes all over the field. But if all that's clicking, man, like, they're 5-0 right now. But they're not. Just another disappointing loss.
That's the problem is they do have those turnovers. It's like an
Yeah.
epidemic over there. Constant turnovers. Brandon, who do you have for your disappointment of the week?
I will stay in the SEC, and I think I gotta go. Ole Miss. Why am I echoing right now?
Hey, check your feed. You're getting feedback. Say something.
Hello. Is it echoing still?
Yeah.
Yeah. Where'd your other AirPod go?
They're both at 98%, and one just cut off.
Okay. We'll put them back in your ear.
Are you muted? All right, cool. Yeah. All right,
There
so
we
we'll
go.
keep pushing along. I will do my disappointment of the week. Did you go through all of yours, or you? I mean,
Yeah,
do you
no.
want-
Oh, you're talking to Nate?
Brandon, do your disappointment of the week.
Yeah, I said Ole Miss.
Yeah.
I mean, you just can't come into you can't have Kentucky come to your place when you're supposed to be a top 4 team in the SEC with a Heisman candidate and pretty much get out-hearted at home. I mean, you're losing to Kentucky by a lack of heart and like want to. I mean, that's only going to continue further down the road against like a Georgia, Alabama, Texas, those elite teams.
That was a worrying performance for me. Like I was
Yeah.
really like
I think they slept on Kentucky a little bit. I think they were going to just show up and win, and Kentucky was, like I said, they're just out there to wreck seasons now.
And I think it's that, and I think like it is that. To your point about Kentucky, they're tested. Like that's a tested
Yeah.
team, and I think they're used to playing at a certain speed now, and I think Ole Miss has to get used to playing at that speed.
Right. I mean, I still think they have the talent
Yeah,
to
yeah.
go a long way. It's just, now you have an SEC loss to Kentucky, and you still got to run. I think they still got to play Georgia and maybe Tennessee or Texas, one of the two. So it doesn't get much easier. You can't really have a shot if you have 3 losses in SEC play.
Yeah. All right, so my disappointment of the week, I'm going to go, none of y'all watched this game, but I did, and it's Wake Forest. These fellas lost to Louisiana University.
Yes, sir.
Not LSU, not LA Tech, not Louisiana. I didn't even know they had a team. Apparently they're okay. They're pretty good. But really it's just Wake Forest is very bad. They are physically unable to stop anybody from scoring. They cannot do it. So they lost this last game 41-38. They actually had a chance to drive down, and they did this against like Virginia too. They had a chance to win, and they get to the end of now it's either a pick, it's a fumble, or they kick a field goal, and the dude, he had a worse miss than any other miss you saw in terms of kicking a field goal. And this thing wasn't even competitive off the foot. I thought it was blocked. It was so bad.
It was like the Ohio State versus
It might have been
Georgia
worse.
in the semifinal.
It might have been. It's the worst kick I've ever seen. But yeah, complete shank show. So they lost 41-38. And I'm really disappointed because I actually think they're like a fun team to watch because offensively, they're pretty good. They just have an abysmal defense. So Nate's having technical difficulties right now. We'll see. Do you want to try talking or should we push on?
I think we
Am I
need to
good
start. Oh yeah, that's not
Oh,
bad.
that sounded okay.
I think we need to start a new segment called Nate versus Technology.
Yes.
I think he's like 1 and 2 right now.
No, we should have a segment where we play like from like the second episode we did where he was in the other room.
Yep,
Just play like a
yep.
segment of that. Just he has these battles
Just
all the
have
time.
clips of Nate just absolutely selling.
All right, so I got 30% left on my left ear.
Okay,
All right.
we're over halfway done. We'll actually go through week 6 preview
maybe
pretty
we
quick.
need to get like a, we need to put it in the budget. Get Nate like headphones and a mic.
and a and a laptop.
I have a Bluetooth headset. I just never use MacBook, so I got to figure out how to get that connected.
You got all week after tonight to
At some
to
point-
figure it out.
We're just gonna have to get Nathan a whiteboard, and he's just gonna have to write down what he wants to say, and we'll just.
That's what I'm doing with Will and his little screen right here.
Nate'll be like
keep
push to
moving before they
talk or
break
something
down.
like that.
Give him a walkie-talkie.
Yeah.
All right. Anything else on week 5 before we go into week 6?
I think
All good.
we're good.
All right.
What was Nate's word of the week for week 5?
Epic. It was
Epic's
epic.
good. Epic's
Yeah, I
good.
agree. I agree
Yeah.
with that. All right. So we're going to be more brief with the preview, if you guys don't mind. I think at the end of the day, we talked about everything we wanted to talk about. I want to make sure we have something to talk about next week. So we're going to go through this, but it's not going to feel the same, unfortunately, because there's no Georgia-Bama on the card. But we'll go in. We'll start with our games of the week. There's a couple that are, to me, this is a lesser slate, but I've got a couple that I'm excited about. Brandon, if you want to get into those, get us started with what to look forward to for week 6.
Yeah, we'll go ahead and start with what I think will be the less watched game of the week, which would be Texas Tech at Arizona. And then we'll bump it up in stature, and we'll go to Michigan at Washington. And then we'll have the SEC matchup of Missouri and Texas A&M, which I think will be the most watched when it comes to our games of the week, just because Missouri almost lost to Vanderbilt 2 weeks ago. So there's still a lot of questioning surrounding the Missouri team. And then this is a Texas A&M team who, won a tight game against Arkansas, lost a really tight game to Notre Dame to start off the season. So we could see Missouri take a loss this week. So a lot of interesting stuff in that one for me.
So we'll start with Texas Tech versus Arizona. Nate, I'll have you lead off with that one since you've got a dog in the fight.
Yeah. So I think it's to me it's a very simple game. Texas Tech has a high-powered offense, but I mean with the competition they've played, this is gonna be the best defense they've faced by a long shot. On the other side, Texas Tech averages giving up 34 points a game to their competition, and like I said, they've not played in Arizona yet. So what I'm going to take in this game is I'm actually going to take Arizona -6. I think it could be tight at the beginning, but Arizona is going to wear them down at the end of the game, especially on the defensive side of the ball.
So I love this. I'm going to go
I'm
now.
going to keep it simple. Yeah.
I love this. I think this line is built solely off of Arizona doing what they did last week. That good win against Utah, who is a ranked team. I think it is built solely off that. I also think it is too high. I think this game is going to be more competitive than that. I understand where it's being played. I get that, but I'm not afraid to go play at Arizona. I'm not afraid to go play there. Not compared to some other places. I think it's a good opportunity for Arizona to let their foot off the gas, and I think it's a great opportunity for Texas Tech to come in and make a statement. So I actually have Texas Tech covering at +6. They can score, dude. They can score.
Yeah,
they
they
can
got a
score
good
the football. They have a good offense. I just think if it was like a 3, like -3, I wouldn't take it. And I probably because I still think Arizona can win. I still think they probably win. But I think this is a nail biter until the very end. I think they can win outright, but I don't think they're going to. Will he said defense will be optional. Tech doesn't have a pass rush. As long as Tech doesn't make mistakes, they can score easily. So he is going to have. He also thinks Arizona is going to score fairly easily as well. He's going to have Texas Tech in Arizona over 63.5. So he's going to take the over. Brandon, what do you have here?
I actually agree with the over. It is very high, but I could see it, another one of those 30-something to 30-something games
They're gonna
push
score.
the over.
Yeah. they're gonna score.
But I wouldn't. I do like your pick as well with Texas Tech being, what was it, plus 6.5?
6.
Yeah, 6.
Might buy up or play the push for the value.
Yeah, because we're looking at an Arizona team who did have an impressive win last week against Utah, but also had a very bad loss against Kansas State.
Yes.
So I think they're still searching for some kind of identity, and I think Texas Tech probably comes in there, punches them in the mouth, and scores easily. So I honestly think this game will kind of be Arizona trying to keep up with Texas A&M. So I like the over. I like Texas Tech plus 6. Either one of them works for me. I'm probably going to play Texas Tech plus 6 or play the push and buy it up.
Yep. All right. Anything else on that one? We'll slide over to Michigan at Washington. I'll start with this. Man, these are tough to read. He is taking Washington. Nope, he is not.
Oh.
He is taking Michigan. He's taking Michigan at plus 115.
Yeah, I was about to say Michigan's. I think Washington's minus 2.5.
Yep, he's taking
Which is
Michigan
kinda
at
crazy.
my line was better, so I got it a little better value. But he's taking taking Michigan at plus 115. He thinks they're better. He thinks it's going to be more of a defensive game, in which case Michigan's defense is better and they're going to win out in the end.
Yeah.
I also am taking Michigan. For the life of me, I don't know why Washington is favored, and I really don't
no idea
know why.
either.
If I'm gonna get Michigan at plus value, I don't care who they're playing. I almost don't care who they're playing. I'm gonna look into taking that unless they're facing Bama or Georgia or Texas
Right.
or a top 5. But if they're playing Washington, I'm absolutely going to take the plus money value, and I'll take the L if they don't win. Whatever. But that value is too good to pass up for me. What do you guys have?
I got Michigan as well. Anytime you can get a top 10 team at plus money against another ranked team, you
no-brainer.
got to take it.
Yeah.
And I think Michigan, to your point, is just like a Clemson, like we talked about week 1, to whereas, they might not be as competitive if they play like a top 5 team, but they're probably going to beat the snot out of anybody that they should beat. Which, looking at it here, when you look at the kind of how both teams operate, Michigan's they're obviously going to run the football. They're going to play good defense. I don't think Washington's going to be able to score, and I as far as Washington's defense goes, it's not like it's anything scary. I think Michigan will have a relatively easy time running the football. So
Yeah.
I
Nate?
got Michigan plus money.
Yeah. For me, the best way to put it is Washington's their offense is like an off-brand USC.
Yep.
It's similar, but USC is just more explosive. Washington's put up a lot of points, but you got to look at the competition they've played so far. Now, the thing with Washington, though, is they have a bad run defense. And what is Michigan going to do? We all know they're going to run the ball, right?
Yeah.
So I don't know if this is going to be a high-scoring game or a low-scoring game, but I do have confidence that Michigan's defense will wear out Washington, and then vice versa. Michigan's offensive line will wear down their defense. So I got Michigan money line here, and I don't even know if it's going to be that competitive at the end of the game.
Yeah, I think we were all I kind of figured we were all going to be on the same page there. It's just tough for me to. I can't even make a case for
yeah.
I don't know.
I think we look at, as far as like we talked about with Ole Miss, as far as both teams being tested as well. Washington, they're 3-2, and they've played Weber State, Eastern Michigan, lost to Washington State, beat Northwestern at home, and they lost to Rutgers. And then you flip over to Michigan, and we're looking at, obviously, they played Texas, a loss there, but they've beaten USC and Minnesota in back-to-back weeks, and they both scored 27 points in that football game. So, and I would say USC's offense is probably better than Washington's.
100%.
So,
all right, last one. We'll go to Missouri at Texas A&M. This is probably the one I'm most excited about. Brandon, go ahead and give us your thoughts on this one.
yeah, I'm actually, this Missouri team makes me a little bit nervous. And I say that because obviously the books see it too, is Texas A&M's 2-point favorite here. Their spread's 2, the over-under is 48.5. And I actually would love to take Texas A&M money line here if you can get it at good value, or just take the -2 for like -110, because Missouri has to go and play Texas A&M at home, which we know is one of the hardest places to play in all of college football. And Missouri, I mean, obviously they've looked good against Murray State and Buffalo. They played Boston College, got a little tested there, only won that game by 6 points, and then they should have lost to Vanderbilt at home. So I see them walking into, Kyle Field?
Yeah.
And I don't really know if, this game sets up well for them. I like, Brady Cook has kind of been a letdown this season. I mean, I know they haven't played anybody, except for Boston College with, a lot of stature behind him. But he doesn't even have 1,000 yards passing yet. I don't think their run game is very solid, especially against a absolute NFL-level defensive line that Texas A&M brings to the table. I think if Missouri wins this game, it comes on the last-second field goal. But I got Texas A&M probably winning by a touchdown.
Yeah, so funny, you started talking, and I looked down at my notes, and I said, y'all know I've been worried about Missouri the last couple weeks. So it's like I've been watching them play too, and I'm really not sold on the. I think they're ranked too high, if I'm being honest.
I do too.
I think they're too high, and I think Texas A&M's too low.
I'm trying to think of a team like Michigan's ranked 10, and I would honestly think Michigan would beat the snot out of Missouri.
Well, my issue
right
is
now.
They're not even favored in this game. Like, they're ranked that much higher than Texas A&M, and they're not even they're not even favored to win this game. So it's like, do you give that much of a home field advantage to Texas A&M, or are we thinking like Texas A&M is probably a pretty solid football team and can legitimately win this game? Because even to me, if you put them on a neutral field, I don't know if Missouri wins this game. I feel like Texas A&M might still win this game. But at home, to me, it's a no-brainer. The regular value for a money line is -130. That's good enough for me. I'll just take that and just play the dub. So I think Texas A&M also pulls this one out. Will also has wait. He doesn't. He says Missouri is the better team, so +2.5 is a no-brainer. So he is going against us. He's going against us. He thinks Missouri is going to cover at +2.5.
I would say Missouri has more talent. I would say Texas A&M is a better team, if that makes sense.
I agree with that.
You know what I mean? Yeah. It's actually weird because on ESPN, you know how they do like the weird matchup predictor? This is the same thing in the Georgia-Alabama game. So the quote-unquote matchup predictor they have here has Missouri actually winning the game. There's a 51.8% chance. Then you go up to ESPNBet.com, and Texas A&M is a 2-point favorite.
Okay.
So I think the same thing in the Georgia-Alabama game. Like, Alabama on the matchup predictor was had a 60% chance to win the game.
Yeah.
And then the books came out and had Georgia at a 3-point favorite or something like that. So I don't – maybe the matchup predictor is the go-to based on the Georgia-Alabama game, but I don't know. I see Texas A&M pulling this one out pretty handedly.
I agree. Nate, what do you have?
Yeah, Texas A&M's defense, they're still good. Right? I mean, they're still good. Nothing's really changed my mind on that. Their offense, and this is just personal opinion, I think it might be better now. I think it might be better with, what's his name again, Brennan?
Who? Brady Cook?
Sorry.
Luther Burden?
No. A&M's quarterback now. Took over for Wegman.
Oh, Reed. Marcel Reed.
And he's starting this week, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
You got to start him.
Yeah, I mean, their offense is better without or with him. Sorry.
I do too.
I think the one thing I will say about this game is Mizzou in the past we've noticed cannot finish drives. I mean, even against these weaker defenses, they move the ball down the field really well. They get on the other side of the 50, nothing happens, right?
Yep.
I'm taking A&M minus 2.5 here. I think at the end of the day, like, they're going to bully Mizzou up front. I mean, especially on the defensive side of the ball. It could be a low-scoring game. Like, I think it might be a low-scoring game, but I got A&M minus 2.5.
Just an interesting stat. Like Brady Cook was supposed to like be a Heisman candidate a little bit. You know, you could see him in the top 10 at the end of the year, and dude only has 4 touchdown passes.
Yeah.
Like,
4?
Yeah, only 4. And I think it was going into week 3, he was like one of 5 quarterbacks in all the NCAA that had 1 or less touchdown passes.
Yeah, I
and
remember that.
even only in Vandy, the game went into double overtime. I think he threw a touchdown in overtime. So
Yep.
he could very easily have 3 touchdowns. He just like 4 touchdowns, 1 pick. So I just don't know where they have good weapons as receivers. It's got to be the offensive line or something. I don't know
Yeah.
why
I mean,
we're
Burton's
not getting
nasty.
production.
Luther Burton's good.
No, he's probably one of the best receivers other
Yeah.
than the boys at Alabama.
All right, you guys ready to go to the toilet bowl?
Yeah, love it.
All right, so the toilet bowl, we did not struggle to pick the toilet bowl game this week. This is going to be Jacksonville State and Kennesaw State. All right, so NCAA football's worst rated team versus one of the most disappointing teams in FBS football in Jacksonville State.
Yes, sir.
Will has Jacksonville State over 31.5 points. That's high. But he said
high.
both defenses suck, so it doesn't matter.
Fair.
Jacksonville State is going to score 32 or more points in this football game. He's very low on Kennesaw State. What do you guys have on this one?
So, first off, Jack State's is like their drop off is laughable year over year. Like I thought they were going to be good this year. So I'm not picking a winner of this game either. I'm going Kennesaw State over 16.5 points for plus money.
Ooh.
That's his plus money for them to score 17. That's
That is
brutal.
funny.
So that's what I'm going with. I mean, Jack State's defense is not good, like he said. Kennesaw State, they have scored. Like, they've moved the ball okay, better than I thought they would against some of these teams. So, yeah, give me them at over 16.5.
Brandon, what do you got?
I think I'm just going to take Jack State to win the game.
That's like minus 550.
Yeah,
based off what
I
I
don't
said
know,
and what Will
dude.
said,
I don't know
check the
anything
spread.
about these
You
teams.
can't do that.
Dude,
So
I don't
Will-
even know where to go to look up the conferences for this team.
So, Brendan, Will took over points for Jack State. I took over points for KSU. So just pick if they're covering the spread. Which team's covering?
I mean, Jack State. Just give Kennesaw State's terrible. Like we know that.
I also have Jack State covering the spread at minus 14. So I bought it down a little bit. It's like minus 145. So I think Jack State wins by 2 touchdowns or more. I kind of looked at their game log, and they've been a little bit more competitive against other teams. They had the bad loss to like Coastal in week 1, which is where we're like, what happened to Jack State? Like thinking they were going to be like, I mean, we knew they weren't going to be as good, but I didn't think it was going to be that bad.
Yeah.
But they've been competitive overall. I haven't seen Kennesaw State lose by less than 12 points the entire season. So I'm just going to go with the safe pick to me is for Jacksonville State to play 2 touchdowns better than Kennesaw State.
I like that.
We'll go over to individual plays. This will be the last thing we do, y'all. We are running up against time, so let's burn through these, and then we will be done for the night. Nate, go ahead and start us off with your Big 12 plays.
Yeah, so I'll start with the biggest game of the weekend, West Virginia and Oklahoma State. Just kidding. 2 very bad offenses here battling it out. But I will say, even though West Virginia does have, or they are 2-2, I think Oklahoma State's 3-2, so they've both lost a couple games. But this can be my plus money play. I think West Virginia's going to win a close one over Oklahoma State. I just don't trust their offense no more. So it's gonna be an awful game. I'm gonna take West Virginia's money line there. It's like plus 140 something, so it's nothing ridiculous. I think they'll actually win this. So my next game is, I don't know if Brandon has anything on this for the SEC or if Will does, whatever. And I know they were in my disappointment of the week category, but I'm going to go UCF -3 over Florida. Now, my reasoning behind this is I know what Colorado just did to them, but Florida's offense is not as electric as Colorado's. UCF has one of the best rushing attacks in the country. Florida has one of the worst defenses against the rush. I think it's going to be a pretty high-scoring game, but I do think UCF wins by more than a field goal. And then I've already done my Arizona Texas Tech pick. I got Arizona -6, so that's it for me.
Okay.
Not bad.
I'll do Will's. All right, so Will, he doesn't have a ton of notes, so these are going to be brief. He has Rutgers +7 over Nebraska. Rutgers can win this game outright. He thinks it's going to be a slow grind, and he thinks they're going to run the ball well. I actually love that pick. I think Rutgers is slept on a little bit still, and I think that's a good football team. His plus money play is Penn State -28.5 versus UCLA. So he has them just beating the crap out of UCLA.
Yep. Totally agree.
That's at technically even money, but it's plus 100, so I guess it still counts. Indiana is his last one is Indiana -13.5 over Northwestern. This is for -115. Indiana averages 48.8 points a game. Northwestern averages 17. That does equal an Indiana cover for sure. Okay, I vibe with that pick. That's a crazy
I like those.
stat. Yeah, it's
I like
a crazy.
those.
He's been on point. Like he's close to dominant right now. I'll go ahead and do mine. So lock of the week for me, I'm going to go with Boston College. They play Virginia this week. You guys have heard me talk enough on the podcast. I am a Virginia hater. I do not believe in them. I do not think they are a good football team. I think they have a cupcake schedule, and I think they are about to get exposed playing a good football team for the first time this year. They beat Wake Forest by 1, and Wake Forest lost to Louisiana University. This is not a good team. Boston College is going to beat them handily. All right. 2 touchdowns at least, but I can't do that, so I'm just going to take. Boston College is plus money. So like they're plus 105. So I'm like, this is absolutely a no-brainer. So I'm taking that. Could be my plus money play of the week, but I'm going to make this one my plus money play of the week because it's a plus 120. We are going to run it back with North Carolina. We're running it back, and they are facing my favorite team in the ACC outside of Miami, and that is the Pittsburgh Panthers. I love watching Pittsburgh. Eli Holstein's a dog. He's a great quarterback. That team is fun to watch. But this past weekend, North Carolina has become what we call a desperate team. Okay? And a desperate team is more fun or more dangerous than a fun team. Pittsburgh's a fun team. So they're not dangerous. They're 5-0. They're sitting pretty. They're riding high. This is the time where North Carolina is going to come in and they are going to play the best ball of their life. They're also at home. And in this series, Pittsburgh is 0-4 their last 4 at Chapel Hill. So they also don't play good at Chapel Hill. North Carolina this is it. They are on the ropes. They're going to play. If they don't do it this week, it's done. Kind of the same thing I said with Florida State a couple weeks ago. And, of course, they didn't do it. So we're going to run that statement back, and hopefully it pans out this time. This is North Carolina's proving ground. They will win this game. This game will also have 75 points in it at the bare minimum. It'll be like 48-44. But North Carolina wins. Last one, I'm going to do NC State versus Wake Forest. NC State is laying at -5. I'm going to buy it down and take -4.5 for NC State. They don't have to win by much for this to cover. Like I said, Wake cannot stop anyone from scoring the football. That goes for Louisiana University. That goes for NC State, who also isn't really that great at scoring the football. But if Louisiana can score, NC State can score. I have them covering at -4.5. The home team in this series is 14-3 against the spread. So when these two teams play each other, the home team is 14-3. NC State is the home team. They will cover at -4.5 or -120. Brandon, you were the last one, and then we are getting out of here.
All right. So we got some bangers in the SEC this week. Aside from our game of the week, we got a SEC Classic with UGA bouncing back after Alabama. They're playing Auburn. We're actually going to go UGA -7 first quarter against Auburn. I think, it's going to be a hostile environment bouncing back from Alabama. I think Georgia's going to want to start fast just because that's probably going to be a point in practice this week of starting games fast and continuing momentum throughout the game. And that's probably the best value you're going to get on this game alone is that -7 for Georgia. There's no reason you should take Auburn in this game. I know that there is some things that you could say, well, they might be good if they didn't turn the ball over so much. They do have a good offense, but the offense has to be on the field to be good. So I think this will be the best team they play this far. Georgia's got a ton of athletes on defense, and I think they will come to play quickly in the game. I think out of -7. I don't, also to be noted, don't have a plus money play of the week. I think that's the best value play I have right there. I think it's -110, but we got to bounce back from our 0-3 week. But moving on, I got South Carolina plus 10.5 versus Ole Miss. I mean, just a super disappointing loss Ole Miss is coming off of against Kentucky. I think South Carolina is going to play similar to Kentucky, where there's not a whole lot to play for when you look at, playoff run and national championship run. So I think they're just going to go out and really try to wreck seasons. I believe this game is at South Carolina too, so could be a difficult environment. And plus, South Carolina's defensive line is actually, I would say, up there with the top teams in the SEC.
Yep.
I think they lack talent more so on the offensive side of the ball, but their defense is going to keep them in this game. And I think South Carolina is obviously, I think, a better team than Kentucky. So it's going to come down to we're going to see how Ole Miss kind of responds to being punched in the face, and I think South Carolina is going to want to make some noise as well. So and Kentucky also, with all the hype surrounding Ole Miss, Kentucky really proved that it doesn't matter, what talent that ESPN keeps putting in our face as far as Ole Miss is this juggernaut of a team. They got this Heisman quarterback. I think Kentucky proved that they're beatable. So I think that aids in South Carolina's favor. And touchdown and field goal being at 10.5, I think you got to buy it up to get it 10.5. But I don't see Ole Miss winning by 2 touchdowns. I see it being a close game, even though Ole Miss might pull it out. So I like 10.5 for South Carolina.
I like that.
Last one is Alabama versus Vandy. Hate to say it because I like Pavia. I like the heart he plays with, but I got Alabama -21. I mean, we all saw it. We talked about it for what felt like an hour earlier. Alabama showed that they should be number 1. They're probably the best team in the country as of right now. If you look at it, and Alabama was covering -21 against Georgia in the first quarter of the football game. I think this is another similar vibe to where they cover 21 in the first quarter and they just keep scoring. Yep. So I think this game is covered and wrapped up as a win by halftime. So Alabama -21 versus Vanderbilt.
All right. Anything else, guys?
I think we are good.
All right. Brandon, tell the people to like us on Instagram and follow us on Spotify.
Do the things.
Yeah.
So go on Spotify. On Spotify, you can comment now. So if you guys want to, shoot us some comments, maybe we can bring them up and discuss some comments in future podcasts. Make sure you're ringing the bell on Spotify. I think you get to listen. I think Amazon, if you don't have Amazon Prime, I think it adds in ads. So if you listen to us there, get Amazon Prime so you can listen to us ad free. Make sure you're following us on Instagram so We're trying to put out pretty good content, pretty good quality stuff on Instagram. So give us a follow there, and we will see you guys next week.
All right, appreciate it. We will be back next week with our recap of Week 6 and the preview for Week 7. Thank you guys for listening. We'll see you next time.
Peace.
See you.